Welcome to the Candace's Pack Dog Rescue Show with your host, JP Mendoza.
What's up, everyone? Thank you very much for checking out this bonus episode of the Candace's Pack Dog Rescue Show. This is part 2 of the Instagram Live that I did with Rene Tollinchi from Yo Adrian Dog Training, based out of Queens, New York. In this half, we talk about natural dog energies, why I chose to run a nonprofit rescue over a dog training business, how I plan to use dog psychology to help rescue dogs find permanent homes, Rene's early experience rescuing and training his dog Adrian, and a whole lot more. You can follow Rene on Instagram at yoadrian.dogtraining. Thanks for listening.
When I realized that dogs are born with a certain sensitivity, right? Or they can be very, I don't want to say dominant, but you can have a very confident dog, or you can have a very nervous dog, or you can have a very middle of the pack dog that's just like, oh, okay, well, I don't really care about anything. I just want to sleep or play when it's time to play, and you can feed me whatever. Like those middle of the pack dogs, I believe, are what most people get with dogs. So when you have a middle of the pack dog, I think it can kind of play with your perception a little bit, and you think every dog is like that.
Yeah.
But when I would tell people about my dog, their automatic assumption was, oh, well, was she abused? Well, I don't know if she was abused. I mean, we got her as an adult, but I mean, it doesn't really matter, because the kind of dog that she is the kind of dog she is, right? Obviously, if she was a back of the pack dog and she was abused, of course that would make the situation a lot worse. But the example that I'm trying to explain here is that you can have a puppy in a litter that is a more nervous, sensitive litter mate than the rest of the litter, if that makes sense. And that puppy, you can raise it perfectly, but that dog is never going to be like Lassie and save people, drowning in a river or anything like that. So there's different types of dog personalities, just like people. It's just like with people. You're going to have your confident people, you're going to have your tough people, and then you're going to have your people who are very, laid back, low energy, just want to chill out all day. I can't chill out all day. It's very hard for me to just chill out all day. Like I need to feel like I'm doing something, at least for some part of the day, and that's just the person that I am. So reading that explanation of how dogs are born with that innate personality or energy type or energy level, whatever you want to call it. That was a big realization for me, because I realized, okay, wow. So Candace was born a back of the pack dog, and she may or may not have been abused, but I'm not focusing on her past. I'm only focused on her present.
Yes.
How is she right now, and how can I help in the moment? So, that's the one piece of information that I always remembered, and I try to always keep that in mind when I meet a new dog, or if I see another dog on the street or whatever, and I try to look at the dog and I try to say like, is the dog like super excited and jumping all over the place, or is the dog just like, hey, I don't really care about this dog, or is he super, you know what I mean? Like it's I find the energy types very, very fascinating, because it's an individual dog kind of thing, right?
Yeah. No, like it's really good that you bring that up, because I feel like, I'll get that a lot too with my clients. Like I'll get the owner who's like, well, my last dog was like this, so I expect my next dog to be like this. Yep. And it's like, no, like I equate it to the same way. It's like, with stereotypes, I guess, a bit, right? So like, just because I'm Puerto Rican doesn't mean I'm always going to use a dogo, right? Like,
Exactly.
So
that's so true. I could have said that better myself.
Exactly. So it's like you kind of like break it down a bit, and it's like, yeah, this is like the breed definitely will help predetermine some innate traits or some things that they desire, but it doesn't mean that they transfer to every dog. And I think that, you can have this idea of what the dog would and should be, but knowing, again, where, like you had said, where they rank in that makes a difference, because when you get into the whole like domestication of the dog, right? We have prolonged the imprinting phase, which meant that it further down comes along the line of the fearful stage of the dog versus that of like a wolf. When you go and you look at like that comparison and how we try to elongate that imprinting stage, that gives us more opportunity to create that relationship and what that dog's going to be. But because we have genetically altered these breeds for hundreds of years, we have determined what these dogs are going to be. And it doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case. We're never going to always get these confident dogs coming out of breeders. We get,
Right.
backbred dogs. We get dogs who are product of circumstance, things like that. And, to classify, maybe my dog isn't just the most, how some people say alpha or dominant or confident or whatever the case may be. I agree. It's not like, I don't think that that's always what people actually want. And that's where mispairings can be. Because you can get a dog that's bred for a certain type of look, but also a certain type of trait, like confidence, and then you bring it into your home, and you're like, oh man, I'm really excited about having this beautiful looking dog, but you don't realize that this dog, like in terms of its temperament, is not a proper pairing for you. So now you have this situation where you want a dog that's going to be a little bit more back of the pack, as you say, where this one's going to be a little bit more confident and take over and be like, all right, I gotta do what I need to do. And then you just get the situation where you're in like a consistent state of conflict, right? You're battling for position. Dog's like, kind of like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know about what you're doing because you don't know what you're doing. So I got to do what I got to do. And I think that if we know what kind of dog, like in terms of temperament that we're looking for and how to match that up, we can keep the dogs in their homes for a lot longer, where we're not having, a dog that might be too sensitive with somebody who's a little bit more or less patient, or somebody who a little bit more softer and meek with a dog that's a little bit more confident and rambunctious, right? So learning how your dogs pair up as well as where they rank can definitely help in terms of interactions, at least in my experience. I'm sure that you've seen a lot of that, with where you're working now. So
geez. So two things I wanted to say. First of all, I think that's going to be my biggest challenge when it comes time to put the rescue in action and find appropriate people for the dog, if that makes sense. So I think it's one of those conversations that's going to be really tough to have if somebody is interested in one of my rescue dogs because of the way they look or because of the breed of that dog. And I have to tell this person, well, hold on, that's not really how this works. I mean, the energy of the dog might not fit you and your family or vice versa. So it might be one of those things where I'm going to have to tell people like, okay, instead of focusing on the looks of the dog, why don't we take a look and see which of these dogs responds to you better? Which of these dogs is more of a magnet to your energy? So it's because it's really hard because we as humans, we're so visual and we're I mean, honestly, I do it all the time. I wanted Candace because I love the way another German short hair pointer looked and the energy of that dog. I really like the look of Dalmatians, but I don't want to repeat the same mistake. So I sometimes have this internal battle with myself, like, man, when we move and get a bigger place, we can adopt another dog and it'd be really cool to have a Dalmatian. But it's that internal battle of, well, okay, do I really need a Dalmatian? Can I just go and find another dog without paying attention to the looks of that dog and find out which one responds to me better? So it's kind of like, practice what you preach kind of thing. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I think it's something that needs to be stressed in the rescue world. Not so much in the shelter world, because the shelters, they're just trying to clear the shelter. They're just trying to adopt out as many dogs as possible. And I know that there are a lot of rescues out there that want to adopt out as many dogs as possible. And I don't know if that's a numbers thing, if they just want to have something to brag about, but that's not the business that I'm trying to get myself into. I really want quality adoptions, and I don't want people coming back to me saying, well, hey, listen, this didn't work. This isn't working. Like, this dog that you adopted to us is like, destroying our house, or yada yada. So I really want to work hard to focus on the relationship building part. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but hopefully it will involve, in my vision, it involves people taking a more active role in the rescue, let's say on pack walks. Let's say a weekend pack walk, or let's say come volunteer and let's take the dogs out in the yard and let's just have a play session. Let's look at all the dog body languages. Let's pack some food for them and see how, or come for a feeding session. Any kind of involvement so that I can just kind of observe and see which dogs respond well to that person, or which dog is not responding well to that person. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping to involve people before the talk of adoption. I don't want to get cold calls saying, "Hey, I saw this one dog on your Instagram, and we're really interested in adopting them." Well, okay, let's slow down a little bit. Let's why don't you come over? Why don't we, you meet the dog? Do you have any other dogs? What's your environment like? Things like that. So it's more of a quality over quantity. And listen, I'm a tiny rescue. I'm never going to be able to compete with the bigger names out there, and I really don't want to. It's more of a quality over quantity thing for me.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, hearing your story and what your goals were, that was part of the reason why I wanted to invite you on. I mean, there was many reasons, but that was part of it. Because I think that's very important. Coming on the trainer's end, right? There's a lot more, I would say, difficulty when you have to kind of walk into those situations, where I've met clients where I'm like, yeah, if this was a different pairing, this wouldn't be the same situation. And you can work through that and you can help the owners get as far as possible, but they may not always be the best fit. And, it kind of sucks because those same owners may get crucified for getting a dog that wasn't a proper fit, but then now they need to rehome it. Right. And that's not fair to them because they've worked hard. They've done everything that they can. They just wasn't the proper fit for that dog. But then you have on the other end where I feel like if a lot more rescues and, shelters, like you had said, put that proper, quality over quantity priority, then maybe a lot of dogs would be euthanized. For a lot of people that don't know, for in the United States, there's about 2.1 million dogs that get euthanized per year. And that's about 36% of them, depending on the shelter. So, being an owner who came from an experience where, the shelter didn't give me a lot of recommendations about, matching energies. Everything was just, when I had to surrender my dog of, well, he's just like this, so that's just the way it is. It was never like, oh, you can find a trainer, you can find a behaviorist, you can modify him. This is a home that might be better fit for him or anything like that. It ended up in the euthanasia of my dog. So that's why I became a trainer. And, partnering up with, you and other rescues and having those conversations to help inform owners is why I wanted to do what I do. It's to help owners keep their dogs in their homes for not proper pairings. So, with that being said and going into that conversation, I was going to ask, what made you go into doing the rescue biz rather than the training biz?
That's a really funny question. And I'm laughing just because I know what I'm about to say is a little weird, but I'll just say it.
No, go ahead.
When I was reading Caesar's books, a lot of what he was saying was that he has no problem working with dogs, but it's the people that are the problem. And he can have a client that is a Harvard graduate, but they can't walk a 6-pound Chihuahua. You know what I mean? Or you can be the richest person. He tells a story about a really rich client he had that just was not getting the point that he has to be involved in his dog's everyday life for the dog to behave in the house. This guy was having his housekeeper and his dog walkers and all kinds of people come to the house to take care of the dog. But then this guy would get very upset when he would come home and the dog is barking at him because he got close to his kids. Well, you're not home. You don't have a relationship with your dog. Why are you're not understanding this, and the dog is not a robot that you can just reprogram. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of stories that way related to that. And when I was reading this, I was just thinking, this so doesn't surprise me, because a lot of people just don't want to get it. They just want a quick fix. They want, please fix it. Fix my problem and fix it now, because I'm paying you to fix it. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to be in it mostly for the person. I wanted to be in it mostly for the dog. So when I was contemplating what I wanted to do, because my wife and I knew about a year out that we were going to be moving, I was trying to think about career changes, because the New York City tri-state area is a lot different from North Central Florida. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do in rural North Central Florida? And I thought, well, I can help dogs if I do my own nonprofit dog rescue that kind of takes out the person. But it doesn't really take out the person, because like I mentioned earlier, I have to provide the education before they can see themselves as a good fit for that dog. And I might have to tell a lot of people no. And I might still get that backlash from people, but at least at that point, I'm advocating for my rescue dog, instead of trying to tell somebody that, hey, look, if you don't change, your dog's not going to change. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do it more for I wanted to go into the rescue more for getting the dogs out of the shelter environment. I wanted that rewarding feeling of getting them to become more confident. I saw it in Candace, so I know I can do it in other dogs. So so to watch a dog that might be, reactive in a shelter environment, and then you take them out of that shelter environment, but you don't shower them with pity or with sorrow or with sob stories, and you're not in love with their backstory, then the change is just going to happen a lot faster and a lot more natural. So I knew that, because Candace gave me the inspiration to do it for her, I could do it for other dogs that weren't my dogs, and then be able to rehome them. So I hope that answers your question. It was really more to help the dogs directly, more than helping the person that says, hey, I have a problem with my dog, please fix it, if that makes more sense.
No, it totally does. To be honest with you, I could relate to it very heavily, but my motivations, I'm not going to lie, was a little bit more selfish. Like, I always saw myself as like the dude that's going to like have tattoos, a beard, and live in a cabin, drink whiskey, and have a pack of dogs. Like that's my
okay. Those are good goals, though.
Right? So, like, I already got the tattoos, I got the beard, I got the dogs, I got the whiskey, so I'm halfway there. I just need the cabin. So,
how many dogs do you have?
So right now, we board at least one dog for like about 2 months, like anywhere between a month to 2 months. So right now we are rehoming one dog. Okay. We are fostering one dog, and then we have 2 personal dogs. So
nice.
We regularly have like 5 dogs in this house.
Okay. I can't wait to have you on my show, because one of the things that is really fascinating to me that I really want to get into is pack integration. How you integrate the new dogs into your existing pack, and the fact that a couple of those dogs are not regulars, like I'm fascinated by it. It's not something that I've gotten really my hands on yet. So I like to pick people. I like to pick trainers' brains about this. The ones that do the pack walks, and I want to dive deeper into that, but I know we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. So no, we're definitely on your podcast. I'm more than. I would love to have that conversation, because that's not a conversation I get to have regularly. Most people just go, "Damn, you got 5 dogs?" And I'm like, that's kind of like that.
Is their next question, well, they don't fight?
Yeah.
Or do they get allowed into fight? Yeah, that's always the next assumption, is that because you have a lot of dogs, they get into fights.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's because there is that, misconception that like most, like the same way we have siblings, right? Like we always like argue with our sibling, we fight with our sibling, but we always have to go, no, we're dog trainers. Like that's the response.
Yeah.
We go,
Okay.
oh yeah, like
That's cool.
But yeah, we can definitely have that conversation. But when it comes down to, like, because I think that what you aspire to do and what we do is similar, but not 100% the same. Like I obviously board dogs professionally, and I get paid to work with those dogs. But that the dog don't know that it's coming here to board, and like their parents are paying money to have the dog here, and their mind is like, okay, I'm just with this guy now, and that's what's happening. So when it comes down to like training and doing that kind of like whole circle, it's one of those things where it's like we have kind of like similar goals where you want to like build up your pack, get the confidence, get them to understand what it's like to be social, and then get those into homes. And I think that that's, one of those things that's very missing from the communication that happens between like a shelter and a rescue about what the dog will be like in a home environment. So like when I, get into what I was saying about like how I became a trainer, at first I was just like, I just want my own dog and I'm going to train. And then it became, wow, learning how to train dogs. I see how many people are struggling with their dogs, and I'm like, that sucks for them. And I want to be that person that, helps them, because I didn't have that help with my first dog. So I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I know what it's like to have, like just not a good relationship with your dog and where that can go. And that kind of like guilt and like, like Batman's story kind of pain of like, this is what happened to me, I won't let it happen to nobody else. Like that, that kind of thing motivated me. But then as I got like further into it, like you had said, I think on your end, it was, building the confidence out of the dog. And I think for me, it was building the confidence out of the dog, but building the confidence out of the owner to keep the dog. That made me want to keep doing it. Because, I got addicted to that feeling when I like started rehabilitating Adrian. And I'm like, everybody stopped with me and they're like, your dog's amazing. And I'm like, I know she is, but I wanted other people to feel that way. You know what I mean? To walk around and be like, look at my dog. Like, look at how great my relationship is with my dog. So, it got me very interested when you said that you was going to try to do the whole thing of like packing them in, rehabilitating them and getting them rehomed, because I think a lot of people don't know how essential that may be. The dog, for those that don't know, can take anywhere from like 3 weeks to 3 months to really start to, come out of their shell and, really be themselves and comfortable in your home. So, when he was talking about that aspect, I always tell owners that like we're different, right? Like when we're going and we're looking for a spouse, what do? We go on a date. Hey, so I'm thinking about having kids. Oh, I kind of want to have kids too. Okay, cool. And then we keep going and then we get married, we do all that. With the dog, it's kind of like, nah, you're just in my house. Like, it don't matter. Like, I don't care about getting another dog.
There's no courting. It's just
exactly
just picked you up. I just captured you and just dropped you off into my living room. It's crazy, right? When you think about it.
Yeah. Like a lot of people have the opportunity to foster.
Could you imagine though if everybody knew how to match that energy? So a lot of people, they say, oh, my puppy chose me because he went into my purse and grabbed my checkbook or something like that. Like I've heard that story so many times. Or he jumped into my lap while I was at the breeders or something like that. But could you imagine if everybody just knew how to pay attention to the energy of the dog and to be self-aware enough on what energy they are? Like it would be beautiful. I mean, I think the numbers of dogs ending up in shelters would be way lower.
Way lower. I definitely agree. I think, sometimes we, like, even in our own relationships, we don't even think of our own proper pairings, which is why, we can have exes and all that other stuff. We grow, so like, so like with the dog, it's very, like, when I got Adrian, it was different. Like, so when I got Zero, it was that story, right? So like the breeder came over and he put the dogs down, and Zero came to me, and then he landed on me, and I was like, you chose
the one,
me, right? You're the one. And
classic.
Exactly.
Classic.
Whereas with like Adrian, we went to go get this dog named Malibu, and I was like, my heart was set on her. She's adorable little pit bull. I was going to change her name to Clementine. right?
Okay.
So, and that's like from anybody who doesn't know the Walking Dead game series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, her name is Clementine. So I was gonna name her Clementine, and like the nickname I was gonna call her was Sweet Pea because that's what they called her in the game. So
Okay.
I was like, oh, I'm set. Like this is the dog, and they were like, oh, she has like a level 3 heart murmur, and I was like, oh, I can't have that dog. Like not to be that person, but that that's a lot of financial costs. I want a dog that I'm going to train, that I'm going to use as a demo dog. The life that I want to lead with this dog won't be a proper pairing. So
Right.
it wouldn't be fair for me to take this dog home knowing that she may get adopted to somebody else who may be a better pairing, somebody who's able to financially afford the vet
Yeah.
bills and vacation and all that other stuff. So even though it ate me up inside because I was like, damn, that's a dog I could have saved and it could have been in my home. I met Adrian like immediately after, and she's been, the logo of my company. Like she's my best friend.
Yeah.
We have a huge relationship together, and it was a much more positive decision for me to make to go and say, yeah, there was a dog that I ideally wanted, but was that dog a proper pairing for me? And she got adopted before I even picked up Adrian. Like literally, like 6 hours later, they were like, "Oh, this dog's gone." I was like, all right, that's fine. I'm going to get Adrian anyway. So, it wasn't.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but what I would say is that was meant to happen. I would say
Yeah.
that was meant to be because I think you were meant to have Adrian, and the person who adopted the dog with the heart murmur was meant to have that dog. And
Exactly.
you mentioned not regretting it because she's the face of your company and everything. With Candace, it's crazy for me to go back and really think about it because I tell you, Rene, there were some hard times where
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what else to do with this dog because she is just, with her anxiety or she's just, just tons of behavior problems, mostly anxiety based. And I just thought like, how could I make this mistake? This mistake was crazy, getting this dog online that I never met. But it didn't take too long for me to realize, wait a minute, this is the dog that I was meant to have because she's teaching me how to be more patient. She's teaching me how to check my own energy and how to not be frustrated because now that I know I can't be frustrated with her and that my frustration won't help her, I need to choose a different emotion, if that makes sense. Yes, I might feel the frustration, but I would be like, okay, just take a breath and be like, okay, and then do something else rather than just completely react and just explode. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
she has made me, and I know it's cliche to say this because a lot of people say this about their dogs, but she has made me a completely different person. I have a different outlook on certain situations, and because she was a very difficult dog in the beginning, I feel like I'm a way better trainer for it now, and I can recognize those dogs within 5 seconds. Within 5 seconds, I could be at the farmer's market with my wife, and our former super reactive dog, well, not reactive, but super fearful dog with when children would be around or with loud noises. She's just walking happily through a crowd of people in a farmer's market 6 years later. And then I see another dog walking with a hunched back, tail tucked between his legs. Like I see that immediately, I recognize it. But then you see other people who are like, oh, look at that dog, poor baby. Oh, can I pet your dog? And in my mind, I'm like, do you not see that this dog is very nervous and very fearful, doesn't want to be petted? But a lot of people don't see that. So Candace has brought those things out of me, and I've gotten so much experience with fearful dogs like her and insecure back of the pack dogs that I almost feel like it's like a specialty thing, and the specialty is really just patience. Like I can be more patient than this dog or maybe like an average person to be able to help the dog. It's all the other dogs that I don't know how to really handle, like the super high energy, high excitement dogs. those dogs make me crazy. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with you? So it's, it's all a learning experience. But with the fearful dogs like Candace, I just take a look at Candace and I just say, okay, well, it's just a matter of time before a dog like that can get to where Candace is today. And I thank her. I'll be thankful to her for the rest of my life for this, because she was the inspiration behind the rescue, and she's the inspiration behind a lot of changes that I've made in the way that I think about situations and outcomes. Because all I have to do is take a look at her, and she's not freaking out about something she used to freak out about. She got over this. I can get over it too. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. So I'm forever grateful for her for teaching me. She's taught me a lot of lessons.
Adrian, sorry, she's like digging in the bag. But no, like, I definitely relate to that. Like, you saying that, because I feel like that was the same with Adrian. Not exactly the same. Adrian was a little bit more. She was definitely a little bit more fearful when I got her. So like, it was doing a lot of like confidence work. But she came at a time where, because I was working at a box chain store at the time, so everything was, I didn't have a dog, right? So like I had a dog, became a trainer after losing my dog, and then, got a dog while I was a trainer. And, that was one of the things that I kind of felt ashamed about when I started, because I was like, how can I tell people how to work their dogs if I don't like personally own a dog? So, spent that time building the relationship, finding Adrian, doing all that. Like I spent about 2 years looking for a dog before I got Adrian. And yeah, because I was
I have to commend you for that. I really have to commend you for that, because there's so many people, and I know people who have just on a whim said, you know what, I like this puppy I see in the window at the mall. I'm just going to get this dog and then bring him home. Like, crazy decisions like that. For you to take that much time to really think about the right type of dog and the right energy that was suited for you, I have to commend you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you. No, that definitely, I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot of heartbroken nights where I would just go home and I'm like, I just saw a bunch of dogs and I wanted to save all of them, but I think it wasn't like right for me. But I also had, like, I'm not gonna lie, I had some of the advantage of being a trainer. So like I saw a lot of owners come in and they will have like, high energy dogs and they were just kind of like chill people, right? They'd be like, oh, I got this husky because, I like the way it looked, but I like to, spend my day watching TV. And it's like, this is just not going to pair well.
No.
So I was like, I don't want to end up in that circumstance again. But I kind of did. And what I mean by that was, with Adrian, since I was working at a box chain store, everything was like food, treat, click, reward, food, treat, click, reward, right? A lot of luring and bribery and stuff like that. So I knew how to do obedience stuff. Like I could do really good obedience, but I didn't know how to like modify behavior. So when I got Adrian, I did all the behavior modification stuff. So she was like pretty chill and pretty good. But when it came down to the obedience, it was always difficult for me because I was trying to not train her with food. Like that was like, I went into it, I was like, I'm not using food. So what ended up happening was it was a lot of frustration between she and I, because she was like, I don't have the motivation to do this with you because our relationship is lacking. So even though she was able to like comprehend what I needed her to do, it didn't mean that she was motivated to want to be around me doing it. So I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to commit to like doing some food work with her. And once we started doing the food work with her in combination with everything else, her obedience like skyrocketed, right? So it was one of those dogs that it was like at the time, and I feel like as I've gotten further in my career, like she was the first. But every dog after that, there was always, like there's never been a dog that I boarded or did a lesson with where I didn't learn something. Sure. It wasn't something different. It wasn't something that I had to go, okay, I got to work with these particular owners who have these particular guidelines with this particular dog in this particular situation. Now, how do I pair this all together? And I think to be successful at that is to have experience. Like experience matters. Like I think you could, read all the books and, go to, or watch every YouTube video and stuff like that. But once you're in it and it's just you and the dog and you have to problem solve, there's no dog that, because I'm not gonna lie, I have a tattoo from the first dog. His name is Zero, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna get another one for Adrian. And then like the more I started like working with dogs and packing them and, you know, boarding them and doing all that, I was like, I can't get a tattoo for every dog that's changed my life.
Right.
Like, I would be covered in just dogs. Like,
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's exactly why I knew that was the next thing that I needed to do once I moved down here. Like I mentioned earlier, Googling a trainer in the area that at least mentioned dog psychology in the way that they work with their own dogs. I spent the last 6 years only working with my dog, Candace, and then reading books and then studying TV shows and YouTube videos. So I needed that hands-on. And I'm glad I found it, because it's just like you said, it's all fine and dandy when you're reading a book about all these methods you can do and you can try, but when you have that dog right in front of you that's acting a fool and you have to correct the behavior and show them a different alternative or calm them down or whatever the case may be, it might not be as easy as what the book said or how the video showed. You know, just because one person could do something or it works for one person might not work for you in the same way with that specific dog that you have. So yeah, I agree. You learn something new with every dog that you work with. And I'm learning that now, a few months into my beginner dog training days.
You're gonna learn as you go, and like that's the best part, is that you get kind of like shortcuts, right? So like every dog like that's kind of boarded, the next one that comes is kind of like that. I'm like, oh, I already know what to do with you. And then like it kind of gets it faster because you can like plug and play a little faster. It doesn't always work, because you could be like, oh, this worked for this dog. This dog is like this dog, but that doesn't work. So I got to find that maybe this works. Oh, that works. Okay, cool. And then like you kind of keep going like that. But it is like, it's just such an amazing experience. Like I get, at least for me personally, like when working with dogs, I get so into it like in the moment. But when I look back on it retrospectively, that's when it's just kind of like, oh, wow, you used to be like that. And like, I'm glad that I can have that impact on like the owners and the dogs, because maybe the dog won't ever go and like is like 16 years old and was like, I remember Rene. He taught me snow. Like there's never going to be that moment.
Right.
But for me, like I know that I've affected that dog and made that impact. And
sure.
You know,
and the owner will remember you.
Yeah.
The owner remembers you for helping them and helping their dog and helping them have a better relationship. So that's a lifelong impact right there, man.
Well, I guess like I would put it like the same for you, because, you know, when you start doing those pairings, right? So like the woman that, you know, helped me get Adrian, right? We were fourth on the list. So there was 3 people already coming in to look for her. And I was kind of heartbroken, because I was like, damn, like I really want this dog. So she goes and she was like, you know, she interviewed us and she was like, oh, like, what's your lifestyle? Like, you know, all this other stuff. So I was like, you know, Lee's a vet technician. I'm, you know, a dog trainer. And she was like, oh, you're on the top. And I was like, oh, but there's people waiting. And she was like, no, you're a better fit. Like just that right there, better fit. I want a dog that's going to last longer, like in that home. So, you know, she expedited the process. We got Adrian a lot faster. About a year later, you know, I ran into her. Like, and
wow.
And like it was like it was at my job. It was at a boxing store. She was hosting a rescue event, and I came up to her and I was personally like, you know, thank you so much, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have my dog. And she honestly couldn't remember me, and I don't imagine her, because like, you know, she's working with people all the time. So I went and I was like, oh, this is this dog named Sheila, and then she was like, oh, I remember that dog. Like she remembered the dog. She didn't really remember me, right? So she goes and she was like, wow, like, you know, that's like amazing that you're still with your dog. And I'm like, thank you. And then like when Leandra went to adopt a cat, she was like, she remembered Leandra because, you know, we got Adrian from her and all that other stuff. So it was definitely impactful for us, because it was like, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have our dog. So like that definitely helped, like, you know, tie that together, because that pairing wouldn't have been the same. So, you know, going on this journey to, like, that's why I'm not gonna lie, I respect you, because you're putting in priority. I've worked with rescues that have gone and was just like, happy dog, happy home, everything's great. And I've seen them, like, you know, get like mad at owners who couldn't keep those dogs, or like crucify those owners, or do stuff like that. And I'm like, that's your fault for not helping that pairing be well enough that they can keep that dog. So, when I heard all that stuff about like your live and, doing the podcast, I was like, see, that I can get behind. Is someone who understands that the relationship is what's going to matter, and the relationship is what's going to keep that dog in the home,
Sure.
So that's why I wanted to be on, right? Like,
well, thank you for that. That's awesome to hear. And also, it's cool to hear your story on how you adopted your dog, and not only how thorough the woman was on the rescue that you dealt with. It sounds like she's doing a great job. And if every rescue organization could do it like that, that'd be great. Because I do know some people who are doing it like that. And those are the brains I want to pick when it comes to the rescue side of pairing. But it's also interesting hearing the relationship that you had with the rescue itself, with the rescue that we chose to go through the website. We didn't have a very good experience. It was basically, okay, where do you live? Okay, this is our adoption fee. You're interested in which dog? Okay, yep, that dog's available. Yep, she's all healthy. Let's just go ahead and just fill out the application and write us a check. And I guess within a couple weeks, we basically had her. And when we got her, she looked a mess. She had heartworms. They told us she was healthy, and now we have to pay. I mean, they ended up covering the treatment, but just right off the bat, the experience was not a good one. And I knew that when I came up with the idea of doing a rescue, I knew what not to do. And I knew that I didn't want anybody to have an experience like that. And I wanted to make sure that the dog was healthy and properly trained, and maybe they won't be doing all kinds of crazy party tricks, but at least in that balanced state where they can chill out in the house without ripping things up if you leave the dog alone, or knows how to hang out in a crate while you're out and about taking care of things, and you don't have to worry about the anxiety that your dog is in because you left. So simple things like that I know will improve a quality of life for an adopter. And I think those things make a huge difference. I mean, who cares? Who cares if your dog can walk nicely off leash if you have to worry about your dog, ripping up your couch if you have to go outside to the grocery store or something like that. You can't bring your dog to the grocery store. So what are you going to do? You're going to bring your dog over to your brother, your sister's house just so that you can go to the grocery store. Like, I've heard stories like that before.
Yeah.
And it's really not addressing the problem. It's just basically avoiding it. You're just letting the dog live in that state of mind rather than actually trying to help them through it. So things like that, and just making sure that the adoption experience is a good one, not only for the human, but for the dog as well.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear that about like your experience with the rescue. But then again, if you probably didn't have that experience, you wouldn't be on this journey now.
Exactly.
So,
and I was just going to say that I don't regret at all how I went about it, even though when I talk about the story, it's really funny to say it about, going on a website, choosing a dog based on a picture. Oh, this is a cute one. And then reading their little backstory paragraph about their personality, saying, oh, this dog is a perfect fit for us. And of course, they're not going to tell you things like, oh, well, this dog is super fearful of, cars and trucks and things. They don't tell you that stuff. Not really, anyway. Not our rescue. That site didn't do that. And I wanted to be a lot more. I want to be a lot more informative about that dog. I want to keep some sort of journal record or maybe a video record of how the dog was when I got them, and then how the dog is, how you see them today. Maybe have some sort of like video documentation or just have like a profile that somebody can take home with them along with their new dog and be like, okay, look, this is how the dog was when I got them from the shelter. You see how the dog is today. not to put pressure on you or anything, but you can totally mess this up.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
you can totally mess
Like if you know, I can give you a whole bunch of tips on what to do when you take the dog home and how
Sorry
to
about
be.
that.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, what to do when you take the dog home, how to be, how to have a good relationship with the dog. But if you go home and you just completely disregard everything I said and you let the dog have the run of the house, I can't guarantee what's going to happen. You're going to call me in a couple months and you're going to be upset and you're going to say, hey, this isn't working out. And I don't want to get that call. I don't want you to have to make that call. So it's all about being transparent and I think being as careful as you can be so that you can make those perfect pairings.
Yeah, no, like that's awesome. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, like that's really awesome to hear because I feel like that's what happens a lot. Like Lee and I look at a lot of like rescues, or we'll look at like dogs that are for like foster or adoption. Even like the dog that we're fostering now, Tiny. She was on the kill list. Like she was ready to be put down, and when COVID happened, we were like, let us help at least one dog. We wasn't boarding at the time. We didn't have, what was that? Sorry. Well, that's the situation we got, and you guys helped a lot. Thank you, Diego. We appreciate that. Truffle. Yeah, Truffle's one of our amazing dogs. But what I was saying before was that, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, doing the rescue stuff, is that one of the things that we never really appreciated was that you would see, again, like these like Tinder-esque kind of things where it's like it's just a photo of a dog and you're like swipe right if you want to adopt kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then they kind of got like super sensitive and loves to play, but then when you get a hold of the dog, it's like this is a completely different dog, or it's like a lot of those things aren't detailed or put in, and we felt like that was one of those things that what happened to owners is that they don't really have an understanding of the dog that they're adopting. They're going based on a photo, based on a sweet biography written by somebody who has great intent, but obviously their intent is to get this dog rehomed. So, I wanted to get your thoughts on like how do you think you're going to approach getting that like transparency and making sure that it's a little bit more honest? Do you have like more ideas about how you approach that?
Yeah, so my idea is, I come from a video and broadcasting background.
Nice.
So a lot of what I used to do is editing video and editing sound and recording things, kind of behind the scenes stuff. So for me to film and edit is not, it's work, but it's kind of like a labor of love because I like that final product. I like putting out a video that people can watch and it tells like a short story. So my idea was to get maybe some volunteer camera people or just somebody to kind of document specific dogs on video so that I can have that footage edited so that you can see like a linear progression of how this dog was when he came to the rescue, how this dog was like a month later, and now he's ready to be adopted. And now you see how he is now. And then, how did he become more of a more confident dog? Well, this is what worked for him. This is what I did. This was the structure. This was the routine. And I want to kind of package that in some way, whether it'll be, I don't know. I wanted to say a DVD, but who has DVDs now? Maybe like a list of videos or maybe like a YouTube series, like a series on one dog where people can follow the journey of this one dog that I just took in from a shelter. This dog looks terrible. This dog is aggressive. This dog, is bad on day one. And then, 2 weeks later, a new episode or whatever. And then you can watch how that dog is. So it gets people more attached instead of just looking at a static photo of a dog like on Pet Finder or something like that. You just see a dog that they snap the picture when the dog looked like he was smiling, and then they write that little sob story paragraph, and it tugs at your heartstrings. And I wanted to be more transparent than that. I could take a picture and write a paragraph, but I can also get more in depth behind it. So and with the digital age and the age of content that we live in, between YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok now, I think there's so many ways that you can tell a story that people will be engaged in. And then maybe I will have more people saying, wow, I saw that dog on your Instagram or on YouTube. Is he up for adoption? As a matter of fact, he is. So that was an idea that I had to kind of get more eyeballs onto what I'm doing at the rescue, and to get people more interested in the dogs that I would have, to be able to properly rehome them. So that's an idea. I don't know how close I am to that idea, because it takes a lot to. I don't like to just produce anything and just release it. I like to package it nicely and make it so that it has music and looks good. I can't help it. It's just like the pro in me. I just come from the background where it just makes me cringe to just shoot a sloppy cell phone video and then just post it. I can't do that. So if I can make it look more appealing and more attractive, then I can get more eyeballs, and then get more inquiries, and then that should lead to more dogs being properly homed.
So I wanted to say that I relate to that entirely, just because so I come from a filmmaking background. That's what I wanted to do when I was a bit younger. Like I direct short films and stuff. So I love a good story. Obviously, Rocky, that makes sense, right?
Sure.
So like that was one of my biggest hurdles when I started training, was like sitting there and like everybody's like, oh, just put a cell phone in a tripod, and I'm like, it's just not that simple. Like, you need bikes, you need this, you need that.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, I totally relate on that, because even though like I try to attempt that on Instagram with my stories, right? So like when a dog is boarding, when I remember to have my phone or remember it's charged, I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm settling, because I don't have like the right angle and the right this.
Yeah, I know. So, oh my God. You're speaking my language right now, Rene. Like that's why. So my idea was, with the major university that we have here, I wanted to recruit some film students as volunteers, so that I don't have to worry about holding my cell phone in one hand and then holding the dog in the other hand and trying to get that angle. Sometimes I do that while I'm working, because I want to get like a good Instagram story or Instagram video, but it doesn't work because I can't pay attention to what I'm doing with my left hand and then like have my phone getting the right angle. So I wanted to recruit some film students to just be there on a random day or however available they are. Maybe I'll have a potential adopter come over, or maybe I'll have other volunteers where we can go out on a pack walk, and then I can put out a pack walking video or something like that. But I do need those bodies. I need those people to be able to do that, because I can't do everything myself. It's a one-man band. Yeah, I know. Because right now I'm a one-man band, and it's tough. I'm running on pure passion and motivation, just seeing this thing kind of come to life. But eventually I am going to need more physical help from people. So I'm excited about that too, because I'll get to teach volunteers, and hopefully they can pass down the education to other people, and it'll get more people interested. So it'll be kind of like a domino effect or a rolling effect. Yeah. And I obviously I wish you nothing but success, because, to go, like, that's one of those things that I feel like gets missing from those kind of like, and I don't mean to criticize like celebrity dog trainers, but there is, and you and I both know, there's a narrative, right? We need to create a 45-minute episode, a 20-minute episode, and that's kind of like, we need this arc. Dog used to be this way, dog is this way by the end. And you and I realistically know, working with dogs, that journey isn't 45 minutes. That can be years, So to sit there, that's why I like doing the boarding stuff, because I can sit there and track the journey of this dog. But, to have like a whole series like that, like, kudos for that. I would watch that, because I feel like that's where we need to have that level of transparency, because in the age of social media with like TikTok and Instagram before and afters, it's very easy to go and show the dog like before and after. Like, you can do that in a cut. But to me, that's where we kind of fail the owners, if we make it seem like, I agree,
yeah, it's just that fast. Because it's not like, there's dogs like, an example is like, Truffle, who was in the comments, that was like 7 or 8 months worth of work, where I'm like working with the owners, and it wasn't even just my, not to boast about my intellect and skill, but it's about the hard work and dedication that they do at home. Back to what you were saying before about you can't just go in there and fix a dog. If these owners wasn't dedicated and devoted and continue to do what they need to do on a regular basis, then they wouldn't have success years away from a board than, a dog that I've done like one lesson with and then that's it, it's over. It's not going to work. We can teach a dog something in 5 minutes, but to rehabilitate that dog and change behaviors, because we also take long too. We have to adjust to those things. And I think a lot of people don't put that into consideration with their dog, where they think, oh, the dog does all the changing and I kind of stay the same. And it's like, no, we need to change for the dog. I needed to change my routine for Adrian. I need to change how I handle things. I need to change how I was able to verbalize or use body language, or what was I doing that made her feel this way. So I think that, again, that's why I invited you on, because I felt like you have that experience from both sides, like being an owner, having that expectation, training your dog, and now going into a rescue, that you could speak to that experience to help a lot of owners that may not have that foresight,
Well, I mean, thank you for inviting me on, Rene, because I still feel like, I'm very new to the dog world, especially not only the training world and also the rescue world. So the fact that anybody wants to listen to me talk about this stuff is flattering to me. So I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, because the way I see it is like, so how do I put this? There was when I first started training, I was very ashamed of like my story with Zero, because I got crucified after people found out that he was euthanized and we gave him up, right?
This is very common, by the way. A lot of my trainer friends that I talk to, I'm sure you know this. There's that one dog that they feel they might have failed, and it kind of brought them into the training world, and it's very common. It's very common.
To be honest with you, it didn't feel that way. Like when I first started, because a lot of people would hit me with I would never. And I was like, but I don't think you knew or you've been through it. And I would still get that, no, I've been through it. And it's like, but you
don't understand.
Yeah. And, going into that journey and doing all that and getting that rehabilitation with other dogs and seeing that success, it still kind of gives me that weighing guilt of like, if I only knew back then. But to go and be able to, like, I respect any owner or any trainer who's able to get a dog and rehabilitate that dog from beginning to end and never give up, because I wasn't that person. But I think that, going into this, when we decided to do this, I was like, the thing that I love about your approach was the accountability of it, right? The going and sitting there and saying, it was me, it was this, it was this. Yes, there's some things that came before, but it's what do I do now? And I think that, we can, especially when it comes to the rescues and, getting dogs from shelters, we can get so caught up in what happened before defines us entirely. What happened before with this dog is going to be the dog for the rest of his life. But I know many of people that we maybe even aspire to be like, that came from one thing and now is something entirely different. So an example is like, one of your idols is Cesar Milan. Like, he came from being somebody who, came over here illegally and had to sneak into the country into this, successful dog trainer who has changed the industry. And that wouldn't come from, his relationship with his dog, Junior, and, helping other owners, or even Will Smith, who's helped him. But all those relationships created who he was. So, we might see these things as like, kind of like, oh, this is our dog, this is our situation, this is it forever. But, you and I both know that's not always the case. And if you put the time, dedication, and devotion, you can see huge growth with your dog,
Yeah.
So, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Rene. This is awesome, man. Thank you very much for having me. This was super fun. You're really easy to talk to, by the way. So this is really cool. This is really awesome. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, you want to look at it this way. Like that was the advice I was gonna give when I first worked with that trainer, and I had mentioned Zero. She had told me that story mattered, right? And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm the guy who lost my dog. Like, that's not like a story that matters, right? And she goes, no, because that's why you became a trainer. And if owners know that story, then they can know what not to do. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, and you being on that side, like, you may not feel like people may be sitting there going and saying, like who is Jake? Why does he matter? But that story, like, just when you're going to continue to tell, same thing, the reason why I get motivated to sit there and be like, I'm doing it. So you might find it weird now, but I'm passing that trainer's advice down to you and saying that story is going to help someone. So keep telling
awesome, man. Cool. We'll do. Yeah, I will do. I'll tell that story to anybody who's willing to listen.
And that's why I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the podcast. Like, you have no idea.
Cool, man. Yeah, dude. I can't wait to have everybody listen to it. I got some good ones down the pipe too. I think I have about 8 or 9 interviews that I'm going to release weekly. So yeah.
Are you guys doing the seasons?
Yeah, so a lot of the people that I interviewed in the first group were from people that I met at a workshop out in California. I went out to California to take Sherry Wolf Lucas's workshop, and that's where I met Gons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had the idea of the podcast way before then, but meeting all these awesome people that were not only trainers, but there were some people from the rescue world. There were some people just fostering, not even trainers.
Wow.
There were people fostering that just wanted to know more about their specific dog that they couldn't help, or just wanted to be a better understander of behavior so that they could foster other dogs without a problem. And I just was so inspired by the people that I was talking to and connecting with, that it just hit me, light bulb went off, and I said, wait a minute, I want to do this podcast. Now I have people I can talk to, and I can get to know more about them, and I can dive deeper into what's their story, why did they want to become a dog trainer? Out of everything in the world, why did you choose being a dog trainer? So I realized, everybody has a story, and I have a lot of people that I can tap into, and I think I did about 8 or 9, and you keep meeting people through other people, and Instagram is also really amazing. I mean, I met you basically through Instagram, kind of through Gons, and you know what I mean. Like it's a really awesome way to connect. It seems like I have an unlimited resource when it comes to people that I can interview. So I'm excited to bring a spotlight to trainers that may not be so well known, like a celebrity dog trainer, like you mentioned. So because I think there's amazing people in the dog world, and people you may not have ever heard of, and maybe you want to follow them, or maybe this person is in your hometown and you can meet somebody that'll help you with your dog situation. Who knows? So that was basically the birth behind the podcast. So the first season is basically people who I met at the workshop, the majority, and then the second season I'm going to do will be people that I want to get to know more, that I maybe might not have ever met in person. So like somebody like yourself would be great to dive deeper into your story, and also other people that were recommended by people that I had already met or interviewed, like certain people who are fosters. I would love to interview a foster person. That's not something that I have a lot of experience with, and I want to know what it takes to, again, integrate that new dog you're bringing home into your existing pack, and how are you helping this foster dog deal with the home environment before they get adopted? So things like that. I have 1,000 questions, and the thing I like the most about the podcast is I get to learn along with other people who may not know as well. So I get to ask the questions that people may want to know and they don't really know, or they might not have a resource to be able to ask those questions.
Yeah, like that's awesome. I can't wait until you drop that first episode. I'm definitely going to be one of the first listeners. You know, because like I definitely take a similar approach. Like I don't think that we're all going to agree about everything. It's impossible.
No,
right?
yeah. Yeah, we haven't even touched on those topics, the disagreements within the dog thing.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother show, a whole nother IG Live or podcast. That's a whole nother thing that I have personal struggles with that I'm trying to learn more about and also be open-minded. So yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah, because that's one of those things. Like I do really love doing the Instagram lives because you get to have conversations with people who have like similar opinions, people who have different opinions. I've had my opinions challenged. I've learned, I've grown, I've had my opinions reinforced by having conversations like this. So, like sitting here and having that open dialogue and that chat can definitely help, because the way I see it is that, I may have a certain set of knowledge and skills and you may have a certain knowledge and skills, but you can help my audience learn something. I can help your audience learn something. Right. And if anybody who's watching is learning and growing, then that's what I want to do. I want owners to know more about dogs. And the more we know, the more we can keep them in homes. So, that's the way I see it. Right?
Exactly, man. Yeah, right on.
So it was probably time for me to wrap just because I got to walk my dogs. I got to walk.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's dinner time for me.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't want to take any more of your time, but I am looking forward to doing more lives with you.
Yeah,
everybody to, check out your podcast. If you aren't following, definitely follow, because I think you're going to do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. And if you find my podcast and you like it, please rate it. Apparently that helps other people find it, and subscribe. Both on Apple and Spotify, so it should be available everywhere.
Yeah, I'm personally listening to it on Spotify because that's what I have.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go.
So, what you will call it, I'll let you go. Thank you again. It's been an honor. I appreciate your time and your knowledge.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for listening to the Candace's Pack Dog Rescue Show. For news updates and training tips, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at Candace's Pack Dog Rescue. If you would like to support the rescue, please visit our website at cpackdogrescue.org. For questions and comments, you can contact us at cpackdogrescue@gmail.com. And if you like the show, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your podcast app.